I'm Lauren Youse, the HLGU Alumni Director, and I'm here with our 18th President, Dr. Robert Matz. And we're just going to get to know him better. So, Dr. Matz, how did you come to be at Hannibal-LaGrange University?
Well, Lauren, thank you for hosting this and thank you for putting all this together. How I came to be at Hannibal-LaGrange University was about 15 months ago now. I started here at Hannibal-LaGrange as the Vice President for Academic Administration and the Dean of the Faculty. Prior to that, I was serving at a school in Kansas City, Missouri, and pastoring a church in Independence outside of Kansas City, and was not really looking to leave Kansas City. I was quite content in the work I was doing there and the ministry that God had called my wife and I to there in Kansas City. And yet, in that season, some friends began to come to me, and then the previous president of Hannibal-LaGrange reached out to me about the Vice President for Academic Administration position. And while we weren't looking to leave Kansas City, the Lord just began to do a work in our life and really began to sense a sense of calling here to Hannibal-LaGrange into the work that God would have for us here. And so came here starting in July of 2021 and have really fallen in love with Hannibal and with this university and with what God is doing here. And so really looking forward to seeing what God does next year. And then beginning in the summer, the process began for us to search for a new president, and actually a couple members of our search committee began to approach me about the possibility of putting my name in for that. And so Jessica and I again prayed about that possibility and actually submitted our resume and some other documents to the search committee on the last day they were accepting applications. And so turned that in and then walked through the process with the search committee and was humbled and honored to be chosen as the 18th president of our great university.
Excellent. All right, so you talk about you saw God moving here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see him doing?
I see God doing a lot here, and I see God doing a new work here at Hannibal-LaGrange. And there is so much evidence of that. There's the evidence of how God has brought us through the last 9 months. It's no secret that the university has had a near-death experience, so to speak, to use a term there. And this is a university that has at times been described in such a way as a university that exists because God wants it to exist, and I truly believe that. And so there is the most recent example we see of God's kindness to our school in providing for it, but far more than that is just an evidence of God's hand at our university is the strategic planning process we've actually begun to engage in the last few weeks, where just a couple weeks ago we had 30 different leaders from our community, politicians, business leaders, school administrators, hospital administrators, local area pastors of significant churches, both within our Baptist tradition and some other traditions in the community, who came in and began to speak into our university and to say, what do we do well? And we heard story after story after story of how God uses our graduates to transform our community, be that through the school system, where so many of our teachers, our superintendent was saying to us, we wouldn't have teachers for our school system. Like, we could not do school in this area apart from Hannibal-LaGrange University, to our hospital, where so many of our nurses are coming from Hannibal-LaGrange, to our business community, where so many of the business leaders in our community are from this university. We transform lives first and then our community, and we heard story after story of God using Hannibal-LaGrange to shape this community, and so really excited about what he has done and how that's informing what he is going to do with us going ahead.
That is exciting. So what value do you see in the investment of attending a university like Hannibal-LaGrange?
You know, I think there's a lot of value in coming to and attending a university like Hannibal-LaGrange. And I could list so many things here, but you know, the first place we'll start here is our biblical worldview. We live in a world that is increasingly confused about who we are and about what we are doing and why we are here. Those aren't questions that you have to ask at Hannibal-LaGrange. We know who we are. We are those who have been made in God's image, and He loves us, and He cares for us, and He created us for a purpose. And that purpose is to know Him and to understand the world He has created. We live in a world that is orderly, and it is created well and good, and so it is worthy of study. All that is true because God made it so. And so we want to be a people who examine the truth. But that's not the only reason it's worth coming and studying at Hannibal-LaGrange. I look around our classes, I look around our campus, and what I see is I see a faculty, a staff, coaches that are so invested in the lives of our students. I remember my own college experience, and it was at a much larger private university, and I'd walk into a classroom and there'd be 300, 400, 500 students in that classroom. That's never going to happen at Hannibal-LaGrange. Every single class, you're going to have the opportunity to get to know your professor, to be invested in by your professor. Every single athletic event, you're going to see people you know, and you're going to have that hometown community that defines being here in Hannibal, America's hometown. Hannibal's another reason to love Hannibal-LaGrange. It's such a great environment, and there's so many opportunities to serve here and to invest in. And just what's, quite frankly, a really fun small town. I was downtown here in Hannibal the other day for the Folklife Festival, and just being packed in there and seeing all the vendors and all the shops, and it's just a lot of fun.
And you ate some food.
Oh
too.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The food is incredible at that. So many reasons to come to invest in Hannibal-LaGrange University and be part of this community.
What is so important about Christian higher education in our current culture?
You know, that's a great question. There is so much that's important about Christian higher ed in our current culture. I was watching a professor from a secular university the other day, and he was noting how in the secular universities there's been a massive shift in the last 15 to 20 years. And that massive shift is seen in who is teaching and what they are teaching. 15 to 20 years ago, the secular universities still presented themselves as places that were after and for the purpose of pursuing what is true. And that was seen in just the breakdown of their faculty. There have been studies on where faculty lean politically, their religious beliefs, and so forth. And 15 to 20 years ago, you know, people who might come from a more conservative worldview or a Christian worldview were still represented on the faculty of our secular universities. These studies showed maybe 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 5 would identify with those type worldviews. But today, when you look at the faculty, a generation has retired. And those ratios are 1 to 20, 1 to 30, 1 to 60, 1 to 80. And so what you have is you have a collective groupthink that has invaded our universities that just doesn't have any comprehension of a worldview that is friendly and kind to the gospel or to a Christian worldview or even tolerant of that. And you know, here at Hannibal-LaGrange, every one of our professors is going to seek to expose every one of our students to what is true and to viewpoints that are not their own, that are not our own. But this is going to be an environment where we're not going to teach you what to think, we're going to teach you how to think. And that is possible, I would assert, because we are coming from a Christian perspective, because we believe the examination of truth is so valuable. And so that's part of it. As well, we look at the results that our colleges and universities outside of a Christian environment are having on people of faith. And it is so hard in so many in secular colleges and universities right now to even have your voice heard as a Christian, to even be tolerated as a Christian. I look at so many friends of mine whose children are going off to college right now, in many cases going off to secular university, and how quickly there's not even a place for them to be people of faith. And so Hannibal-LaGrange University is an environment that allows and pushes and advocates for faith in a way those places do not, and specifically the Christian faith and that biblical faith that we see embodied in the person of Jesus Christ, who is the center in the story of what the whole Bible's about.
What does it mean that we are unapologetically Christian?
Sure, that's a great question. And what it means that we're unapologetically Christian is it means that the people who work here, the faculty, the staff, the administration, our coaches, everyone who is here is a Christian, is involved in a local church, and holds to those basic doctrines of what it means to be a Christian within a biblical worldview. So that means every one of our faculty, staff, administrators, everyone who works here signs off on the Baptist Faith and Message 2000, which is a broad document that covers the basic beliefs that Christians hold and Baptists hold in particular. And then as well, we all sign off as well on a resolution on Christian higher education from the Missouri Baptist Convention, which adds statements about inerrancy and belief in a literal Adam and Eve, and statements that hold high these classic Christian views. And so everyone is teaching in accordance with and not contrary to that, abiding by those documents. And then as well, we're also going to examine and talk with all our faculty and staff to make sure that this is who they are, this is their beliefs, this is what they hold to. And so we want everyone involved in a local church investing in that and bringing that perspective into their classes.
Why should a prospective student, somebody who's in high school, why should they choose Hannibal-LaGrange University?
There are so many reasons to choose Hannibal-LaGrange University. Obviously, we've already talked about our biblical worldview, that this is a place that will nurture and invest in our students, that you're not just going to be a number, you're going to be a name. You're going to be somebody who is known, who is cared for, who is loved for. You're going to be in a community of such. And then as well, you're going to get practical experiences here. Most of our majors have internships in them where students get out and get real-world experience. And then as well, in addition to these, I would suggest another reason that we want students to consider Hannibal-LaGrange is the transformative power that this institution has in people's lives. So often right now, we are facing crises of every type in our society. But what Hannibal-LaGrange does, and does well, is it instills in folks this idea, as our motto says, of knowledge for service. You want to make an impact in this world. You want to be used in this world. You know how to do it. You serve. Serve
Which is not exactly what the world is telling us.
No, it's not at all. And we wonder why people are breaking, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. But so often I think it's because we just don't learn to invest in others, to prioritize our neighbor. Jesus himself said he came not to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. If you're feeling lonely, if you're hurting, if you're in a place of pain, come to Hannibal-LaGrange. Learn to serve others, to invest in others, and see how that gives meaning to life, because that's how God wired us. That's how God, when he became a man, that's what he himself came to do, is to serve. And so I think part of that being our ethos, being our mission, being our motto, being on the arch over there in Latin as you walk onto our campus, is how we find that sense of meaning and belonging and community that this institution instills so well and has done so well for generations.
So you talked a little bit about what students can expect. But, let's say they register, they come in. What's our atmosphere like? What can they expect out of their faculty?
Sure. I think out of our faculty, they can expect personal investment in a way that, as I've already alluded to, is really unique. That, like for example, right now, our registrar and myself are teaching a class in Christian worldview. And we're going to have, it's right after the lunch hour, and so we're going to have the entire class over to my house for lunch here in a couple weeks on a Monday. And so we'll have them from 12 to 2 over at the house. And we'll have class over there, but we'll also have a really good time of fellowship. And that type of investment is just part of who we are as an institution in every class, in every element. I think of our new business professor, Dr. Jonathan Walker, who just took his class down to a local coffee shop here in the community and heard a lecture from an entrepreneur here in our community and visited with her and learned from her, and then we're able to invest and get to know our community better. That type of investment is so special. I think of our communications department and the trip they take to the national religious broadcasters every year, where, as an aside, they clean house year after year after year, winning competition after competition after competition. There is so much just to be proud of in this university, and to give your time, your money, and to come and invest in Hannibal-LaGrange and be a student here.
How does Hannibal-LaGrange University prepare students for their careers?
What a great question. There are so many ways we prepare students for their careers, be that through internships, be that through student teaching, be that through involvement in a local church, which is so valuable for all of our students, and especially those considering Christian ministry or music degrees, where those can be applied so directly, but for all of our students there, be it on mission trips, where in some cases it may be a vocational type mission trip. I know our nursing department is planning to do a mission trip overseas over spring break in the next year or two, where they'll go and do some medical missions there, or through the various different ways we learn to serve in different settings, through other mission trips we have. There are so many opportunities, and I think the evidence of that is the testimony of the employers in our region. From our school system, who I've already mentioned, who the superintendent is a graduate of Hannibal-LaGrange, the assistant superintendent is a graduate of Hannibal-LaGrange, at least a strong plurality, if not the majority, of the teachers in the district are graduates of Hannibal-LaGrange, and the deep love this community has for its local schools here, to the hospital, to the community leaders and the business leaders, many of whom are graduates of Hannibal-LaGrange. You just see a value in it. I know before I came to Hannibal-LaGrange, I knew a handful of HLG graduates, and to a T, every single one of them were some of the finest people in their professions I had ever met. I think of a Travis Black, who leads music at First Baptist Kearney, or a Brett and Mindy Ackright, who have basically built many of the success stories of another school that I'm familiar with. There are so many high-quality, incredible graduates. Dr. Vanita Henry, who serves on our board of trustees, she's a professor of ophthalmology, chair of the ophthalmology department at University of Missouri St. Louis. And we've had a number of our biology grads go to University of Missouri St. Louis for ophthalmology degrees. And she was saying the other day in our strategic planning session how incredibly well prepared our graduates are compared to the graduates of other schools that go to that program. And initially, her fellow faculty members were like, oh, y'all are coming from a small school, it's a Christian school, you're going to have a lot of work to get caught up. And that's not been the case at all. Our graduates are the finest ones they're receiving. And just testimony after testimony after testimony like that.
In the upcoming future,
yes,
what impact do you see HLGU having in the Hannibal community?
You know, I think it's just going to be a stronger presence here in Hannibal as we re-engage in some places, various parts of our community, as we try to listen better. I know in our strategic plan, we're making intentional times to hear, how do we communicate better? What do we need to be communicating? And then as well, what is it that we need to be offering as a university to help build this community? And so we'll have more announcements on that in the days ahead about various academic programs, various athletic programs, things where you're going to see God doing new works here at Hannibal-LaGrange as we seek to be an even stronger resource for our community.
That sounds exciting. All right, last question.
Okay.
It's a biggie. All right, how does the mission statement and the core values apply to Hannibal-LaGrange University?
That's a great question. As part of the strategic plan, we've been revising our mission statement and core values. And it's not that our core values or mission statement had anything wrong about them, but especially when you reflect on our mission statement, I think I counted it up. I think it's like 42 words long. It's just a lot of words. And we realized that 42 words is just a lot to keep track of. And so we began to reflect on what Hannibal-LaGrange does in the strategic planning process. And what we realized we do, and we do well, is we transform lives. We equip individuals for service in so many different areas. And we transform lives through the gospel of Jesus Christ and through that encounter that we challenge all our students to have to consider the claims of Christ. And so we transform lives and we transform communities. So that's what we do. Hannibal-LaGrange University transforms lives and communities. How do we do it? Through a relevant education. Through education that is applicable to the real world, be that in pursuit of another degree, a graduate degree or a doctoral degree, which you can do here, or we have so many students who go to schools elsewhere, or through just getting ready to serve in the marketplace in so many different settings, or in ministry in some cases. We do a good job transforming lives and transforming communities through relevant education anchored in a biblical worldview. And that's the new mission statement of Hannibal-LaGrange, just summarizing what it is we've always done. Hannibal-LaGrange University transforms lives and communities through relevant education anchored in a biblical worldview. Hannibal-LaGrange is a Christian university. We make no apologies for that, and we believe that leaves us grounded, anchored in a way that other universities aren't. We're not going to get blown over by the next cultural fad. We are secure in who we are and what we believe, and that is the Bible and the author of the Bible, God the Father, and the one the Bible is about, Jesus Christ, and the one who helps us understand the Bible, the Holy Spirit. And so we are an unapologetically Christian university. And then in terms of our core values, we have 5 that we're getting ready to premiere, but one of the ones that I'm really excited about that's new for us, but is so reflective of who we are, is this one that I'll share right now, generational impact. And Lauren, I think about you, and I think about your family, and how your family for generations has helped to shape and been shaped by this university, and how we come alongside men and women and train them at this very formative stage in their life, and we shape them not just for a season while they are here, but for the rest of their lives, for their children's lives, and their grandchildren's lives. And that is part of who we are. We are making an impact for generations, and really excited to continue to talk about these new core values, this new mission statement, and to really organize who we are as a university around them in the days, months, years, decades ahead.